Hi, you guys. It's time to get your first draft of your personal statement. In the last posts, we went over what even is a personal statement and how to brainstorm ideas for it. And in a lot of ways, the brainstorming is kind of the hardest part. What I've made for you guys is a template so that you kind of have an idea of how to organize all of your brainstorming thoughts. And I'm going to go over it in this video. Before I do that, I have to lay some hard truths on you. Unfortunately, this process is not going to be something that you can pull off in one draft. I know that's what most of you guys are used to for high school, but the thing is, in college, your teachers will all be reading your work much more closely than your high school teachers do, which means that if you include silly typos or grammatical errors, or even if like your argument just doesn't make sense, you're not going to get as good a grade. Just to make you feel better or worse, I don't know. I have been writing basically every day for the past 10 years, and I still can't write an essay in one draft. Obviously it's something I want to get there, but the reality of it is rewriting is rewriting. Writing is rewriting, and rewriting is rewriting. So just once you acknowledge that it's going to take a few drafts, it's going to take a few days, then it's a lot less painful. Also, in between drafts, take at least a day off so that when you get back to the post, it's like it's fresh and it seems newer to you so that you're looking at it differently, which makes you spot errors that you wouldn't have spotted the day before. So generally speaking, you want your personal statement to be laid out in 3 or 4 paragraphs, and I'll go over the 3 to 4 in a minute. But the first paragraph is obviously the most important, and that holds true for any essay you write. So in the first paragraph, you want to set up your scenario and introduce yourself. If you're telling a story about an object or an event that demonstrates personal growth or says something about who you are and what your values are, then you want to sort of think of this as the setting, like the setting where you introduce what's going on, who the main characters are, which is usually you and maybe one other person, and that. So in that process, you want your topic sentence. Obviously, that's your most important sentence. If your first paragraph is your most important, your topic sentence in your first paragraph is the most important, which is why I always write it like last. So this is your attention grabber. It should introduce the specific topic you'll talk about. I usually write a temporary topic sentence, and when I go back to revise it, I work on making it more creative and intriguing. I just find there's too much pressure. It's too much pressure to do it right out the gate. But if you can do it, more power to you. So after your topic sentence, you'll have the body. And just like in a classic 5-paragraph essay, in your first paragraph, you want to lay out all the topics that you're going to address in your personal statement. If you're choosing a narrative approach, think of this first paragraph, as I just went over, as a setting or the main character and what event or topic you are discussing. If you are doing a montage or sort of a synopsis of your accomplishments or things that have led to you being ready to be a wonderful college student, then this is also where you'll sort of briefly introduce it, much like a thesis statement. And like a thesis statement, in the last sentence, you want to set up your reader to read the second paragraph. So this is what's called a transition sentence, and you want to think of it as like the bridge, where you're like, here are all of the things that I'm going to talk about in this essay, and first, in the next sentence, I'll be talking more specifically about it. But obviously you don't want to like spell it out like that because that's boring to read, but hopefully you kind of get the gist. And also revising it, refining it in the next rounds will also help with that. Second paragraph, the action. So this is the heart of your essay, basically. Now that you've introduced your topic in the first paragraph, it's time to get specific with details. Remember, choose one aspect you can focus on to show your main takeaway. Describing details of specific events helps the reader understand where you're coming from, and it makes them more interested in what you're saying. So rather than being general and sort of listing things, never list things in a personal statement. That's what your activities section is for. In your personal statement, this is where you get to the heart of something. You go into detail about one specific thing that's an example of who you are as a person and what you believe in. Remember to still have a concluding sentence that prepares the reader for the next paragraph. And in the next paragraph, it's where you bring it back to yourself. What you've learned from what you talk about in the second paragraph, how you changed from the experiences or the activities, whatever. It's your analysis section, basically, is your third paragraph. So keep that in mind. The second paragraph is where you lay out the story. And the third paragraph is like, and as a result of this story, I transformed in X ways. It doesn't have to be that didactic. In fact, it shouldn't be, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying. So third paragraph, it's all about you, baby. This is where you bring it back to the main point, which is how awesome you are, how you've personally grown, what you've learned, how the topic you chose demonstrates that you're going to be a kick-ass leader in college and contribute to the campus. And this is sort of, and this, I'll go over it after the fourth paragraph. So in the fourth paragraph, this is short but sweet. You may not need a fourth paragraph, but you don't want to have overly long paragraphs because, like, think about it. When you're reading an article and you see a really long paragraph, and you're like, oh my God, it's so long, I'm not going to even read it. Whereas if you see like a short paragraph, you're like, oh, I guess I'll bother. That's the same mentality every reader has. So like, you're not alone. And so think about what would make things easy for you to read. And that's most likely something that's going to make something easy for your reader to read. So in your fourth paragraph, this is your conclusion. And like the 5-paragraph essay structure, you want it to mirror your introduction. Make sure the last sentence clearly states what you have to offer in the context of your college, in the context of your topic to colleges. Make yourself a thirst trap for college admission officers. This is where you bring it on home, right? So generally speaking, what these personal statements are doing, as we've gone over in previous posts, is introducing who you are as a person and what your values are. And it's also like a low-key way to shine yourself. And what they fundamentally want is they want to accept a student who's, one, going to make them look good, and two, going to contribute to campus life, which means you're going to be, participating in X club and X activity, and you look forward to being an active contributing member of the student body. So basically, like, you just want to show that, like, you're a team player with leadership potential, that sort of thing. So think about that as you're going through this template, and hopefully that'll help keep the ultimate goal in mind, which is making yourself look good through a very well-written personal statement that is either hilarious, tear-provoking, thoughtful, etc., whatever chance you want to choose. So in other videos, I'll be going over the proofreading process and showing some sample college essays that have been successful in the past. So stay tuned. And in the meantime, get back to writing. Bye, kids.